Okay. Hi, good afternoon, everyone watching SK Live. Today we have with us Yannick, who's a former national basketball player and also co-founder of FanCode. Hi, Yannick. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Tarek.
Anytime. So to begin with the obvious question, you were previously heading NBA in India, and then you subsequently decided to found FanCode. So how did that come about?
Yeah, I've been really fortunate, right? I mean, I think I've been really fortunate to be working in an industry which I'm so passionate about, right? I grew up a sports fan. I played tons of sport growing up. I'm obviously obsessed with sports as a consumer now and an amateur player also. So I've been really fortunate that I've had the opportunity to work in sport for the last, the entire 21 years of my professional career. So working with the NBA was a great, obviously an extremely, it was a fantastic experience. I worked very closely with the entire senior management of the NBA from New York, and we did a lot of great work, especially in grassroots development in India. One of the things that I was always keen on as I worked in sport was uh, addressing various sports fan problems, primarily mine, right? I mean, I'm a massive sports fan, so problems which all sports fans felt and problems which I always encountered. And, Prasanna, who was at the head of Sony sports business at that time, he and I, we go back a long way. We've known each other for years. And we always kept talking about, we complain about a lot of issues that a sports fan has in India, but in our organizations, given the remit that we were in, uh, we don't do much about it, right? Because we're professional executives, we're doing these things around it. So we kind of came together and said, why don't we try and build something to try and solve a lot of these problems? And these problems are primarily around um, building experiences specifically for sports fans, right? And essentially, consolidating an experience for a sports fan. So we got together, and we got together with the founders of Dream Sports at that time, Harsh Jain, and Bhavit, who were also massive sports fans, and kind of talked about how can we actually build something which delivers significant value to a sports fan, which is able to a singular platform where a sports fan can come on board, they can watch live content, they can talk to like-minded fans, they can watch highlights, they can follow live scores, they can do everything uh, they want to. They can engage with their fandom as much as they want to without having to jump between various platforms or various TV channels and or various social. So that was really the context behind which we kind of set up Fan Code under the Dream Sports umbrella. And we've been thrilled with what we've been building out. We've got great responses so far, and yeah, we're very excited about. Very pleased at what we've been able to achieve so far.
So tell us about these sponsors you have, who are backing FanCode, and what is the overall strategy of FanCode?
Right. So we are primarily, I mean, we see ourselves as a direct to consumer company, right? I mean, that's the first kind of, a lot of people talk about, oh, you have an app, are you on the web? Uh, those are means to an end, right? We, as I said earlier, the reason for FanCode's existence is because we want to deliver great experiences to sports fans, and the technology has allowed us to do that at scale and allow us to build that up at scale. So technology again is the means towards building this great consumer experiences and building this great direct to consumer business. So when we started FanCode, we started off with this. We said that one of the largest consumption drivers of sports fans in India, is live scores. Right, people follow live scores, whether it's in cricket and football or whatever. So we started off with that. Uh, Watching video content, highlights, or live content is another big requirement for sports fans, and so we brought that in. Um, Statistics, analysis, understanding games better, understanding who's playing well, another big requirement. So we brought that as a service in. And then fans want to flaunt their fandom by buying merchandise. So sports fan merchandise. So we brought that in, and as the vision for us is to build this direct to consumer platform which adds value to consumers, and the target consumer here is sports fans. What we believe is, if as we continue to add value, we believe at various points we will be able to monetize that value, and we have started doing that already. But the focus is to monetize it directly to consumers. So we put the onus on ourselves and on our team to deliver value to consumers, because if we don't deliver value, a consumer is not going to pay us for services. And as we continue to deliver more value to a consumer or to our target consumers, we know that the consumers will pay us. You will reward us by paying for the services that we deliver.
So, what has been the response so far from your consumers?
So it's been great. Our primary medium of interaction with consumers so far has begun with the mobile device, right? And obviously, having apps has been the primary the start of the integration or interaction with consumers. So I mean, in just the first year and a half, we had close to I think over 1.5 crore downloads of our app. And aside from that, we've already built a significant web presence where we have millions of consumers coming in there. We've now started giving the option for our consumers to stream content on their Chromecast devices, Android TVs, as well as Fire Stick. So as we continue finding more ways for a consumer to interact with our service, we keep seeing that expand, and we also see our existing consumers use and engage with us a lot more.
Okay. What has, how much has COVID impacted the business? Because there's been no sports happening. So,
Right.
what has been some of the drawbacks you had to face, or some challenges, I would say?
So, I think we've been extremely fortunate, right? That when we set up this business, or we started FanCode in March 2019. Oh, what am I saying? Yeah, March 2019. Yeah, March 2019. We started this in a long time ago. March 2019. We obviously wanted to build this direct to consumer business, as I said, right? And we obviously grew in leaps and bounds till about March, where COVID struck, and the primary uh, driver of all sports businesses, which is live sports, stopped. So we looked at that as an opportunity where we knew that live sports would come back. So we had this entire roadmap of things we wanted to deliver for our consumers and for our users, and we said, let's accelerate. And we are fortunate that we have a great team. We've got this great technology team across that we have, and we built a lot of the services that rolled out in July, August, which we were actually planning on rolling out 12 months, 18 months. We actually built those services out, and we were able to, when sports came back in a big way, we were able to add value to consumers um, you know much faster than we would have otherwise imagined if we had continued this. So uh, you know we we understood the impact that COVID had. We were fortunate that we are part of a larger Dream Sports ecosystem, where we had the support to be able to build things out even during the COVID period. And I think most importantly, we've got this, and that's one of the things that drives. And again, I've been fortunate with throughout my career, is that we've got just this amazing bunch of talented fan coders, right, who are part of our team, who constantly push themselves and push all of us to be able to say what next, right? How can we continue delivering value to a consumer? How do we continue using digital to try new things? How do we continue bringing new services? And I think one of the major drivers of our growth we've got this great set of great bunch of teams, stakeholders in fan code, who've really been pushing what we've been doing.
Also, I also read 2 days back you did a join forces with for New Zealand live streaming. So,
Mhm.
what are these organizations that currently you have partnered with globally? And I know there's Bundesliga as well.
Yeah, so we've looked at it again, right? Naraka, we actually start. I mean, the premise, and we've got this cultural kind of tenets that we have across Dream Sports and obviously in Fan Code. The premise of everything we begin with is the user, like is our consumer. How do we deliver value to our consumers? So when we look at partnerships we've done with the Caribbean Premier League, with the Bundesliga, with New Zealand cricket, we've done partnerships with the NFL, with the NBA in the past, with Major League Baseball. massive blue chip brands, sports brands across the world. We've done that because we know that we have audiences who want to consume that content and who are on our platform. Now, the, by democratizing what we bring to the platform, we don't, obviously when we do the Caribbean Premier League or we've done, we're doing Australia's tour of New Zealand, you have a certain mass, large scale cricket fan base who want to come and watch those games. But alternatively, you have a smaller niche base for the NFL and somewhere in between the Bundesliga. But because of our philosophy of being a direct-to-consumer company, we treat each of these customers or consumers equally, and we are saying that we are able to service each one of them by building a digital experience unique to them. So even our football experience, for example, I mean, Bundesliga fans now not just get the live Bundesliga feed; they get this great, live score. Live score action widget where they can actually follow the game with graphics and stuff without watching it live, and we have that across football. So we've been fortunate that we've forged partnerships with these blue chip brands across sports brands across the world, and we've been really fortunate that and these decisions are made knowing the consumers, knowing our consumers on FanCode and building things for them. So.
Because your customers are basically all everyone's on digital. Do you think
Right.
there's going to be a very big shift from, say, normal broadcast to live streaming or OTT platforms? Are you seeing that trend, on the rise?
So I think the trend is across consumption behavior, right? I don't think it's a sports only uh, behavior. It's I think if you look at the basic premise, right? And again, once you start looking at what does a consumer want, right? If you're a consumer of any content, what do you want? You want flexibility, right? You want to be able to watch content where you want, when you want, and the device you want. You don't want that. I mean, you don't want that to be dictated to you. And honestly, in the past 5 years ago, it was dictated to you. You were told that you will watch this piece of content at this piece at this time on this channel on this cable or DTH box or whatever it is. It was dictated to you. So I think the big shift in trend, and this is global, has been the giving the choice to consumers, and consumers have rewarded, platforms or businesses which have look at Netflix. I mean, they broke this entire model in the US, where in the past you had to, as a consumer, you had to buy this contract from a cable operator or in a bundle, which was a year contract, right? And you had to buy this, and only then you got all these channels and all this content. Netflix went in there saying, "We'll go over the top. We'll deliver this content to you. You can buy monthly subscriptions. You can cancel whenever you want, and you get this entire pick of choice of content which you pick and choose whenever you want. So you can watch 8 hours in a row, when you want, or you can not watch it for 3 days. That's okay. You don't have to wait for specific appointments for it. If you kind of build that out to sports, obviously live sports, the appointment viewing still exists because live sports is live for that period of time. But the ability to watch it on whatever device you want, the ability to uh, pay for it, the flexibility to pay for it. And I think that's one thing, for example, that we've innovated and we've seen tremendous response in. Today, traditionally, and this is globally, right? Traditionally, if you want to watch a live sport event on a digital platform or on a cable platform or on a TV channel, you have to go and say, okay, if I want to watch one game, let's talk about let's say if I want to watch the Caribbean League is 30, the Premier League is 35 games, right? Or whatever, 40 games, and you want to watch one of those games, which is only the semi-final or the final because it's your favorite team playing. You have to pay a monthly subscription or an annual subscription, right? And sports fans don't come onto the platform, when they want to watch the game, they don't want to buy subscription to the platform. They want to watch that game. That's the desire, right? Why are we forcing them to make a decision without knowing? You give them the option. So we started with this microtransactions where, in fact, coincidentally, we did it around the Caribbean Premier League, where a consumer could come on board. He could buy a single game. He or she could buy a single game for ₹5, or he or she could buy the entire tour, just the Caribbean Premier League, for ₹49, or or ₹39. So what that did was that basically told the consumers that you choose, right? The entry barrier for actually watching the game on digital first was brought down significantly, right? So, and it gave the consumer the choice to essentially the flexibility to say, okay, I want to watch three games, I'll just buy three passes. Or I want to watch this full tour, I'll buy this thing. And it put the onus on us to say, you watch this game, you pay for this game, you watch it, or you pay for this tournament, you watch it. We are going to deliver the experience to you, which is going to be good enough for you to come and buy my monthly pass or my annual pass in future. There's no compulsion. You don't have to buy a monthly pass to watch a game. But once you come in, I'm going to, deliver the experience across the platform to you where you're going to come back for something else and say, okay, now I want a monthly pass and annual pass. So the decision making has gone away from, us forcing you to buy it to saying that you make the decision. And the onus on us is to deliver enough value to you to motivate you and incentivize you to make the decision. So I think significantly choice, if that's the kind of giving consumer choice is going to be the fundamental shift, and it's already happening in the way content is being consumed across, and the consumers will reward platforms and businesses which give the choice to them.
So now that you've mentioned, like consumers have different preferences. So obviously, like you said, one can choose ₹5 bundle, or the other person can choose a ₹39 bundle. How do you
Yeah.
track your KPIs? How do you upscale your business, accordingly? What's the
It's
model?
the model is essentially that every consumer, right? We look at if we have this, as I said, it's user first, right? That's how, as any direct to consumer business,
Hmm.
we want our consumers to be, we want sports fans to be fans of FanCode, right? We don't want them to buy a subscription for one event and then not come to FanCode for the next 6 months, right? I mean, we don't want to. So we want to give consumers choice, and we've seen this as we've launched Match and Tour Pass, for Caribbean Premier League and for various other events. Significant amount of our consumers come back and watch the next event and the event after that. But that is a reflection of the team and the product that they build and the experience they're delivering to a sports fan. So yeah, there are some people who will come watch that one game and not come back. That's our fault, right? We're not doing enough. So that's really the kind of challenge and the philosophy that we've kind of built in culturally. We have to put our user first. As a direct to consumer company, we have to deliver value, and our reward for value delivery will be determined by our customer by putting the user first, not by some artificially created scarcity of product or some artificially created bundle.
You also, you mentioned about FanCode merchandising licensing. You launched into that vertical. So what has been the response in that? Because, obviously in India, merchandising has been an issue also because of the
Right,
imitation t-shirts, which, you can find anywhere. So
right.
tell us about that.
Yeah, so it's again a critical service, right? And this is again coming back from my past experience with the NBA, who's done globally an amazing job of building a licensing and merchandising business. Again, the NBA has built the business around the same premise of saying that how do you deliver consumer value, right? At various levels, how do you actually deliver consumer value to their sports fans? So, the NBA, if you see, and we did this even in India, you have, name and number. You have fan T-shirts which start at like 699, and then you have official jerseys, Nike jerseys, which go up to 4,999. So you build those ranges around. So that's what we felt that aside from the NBA and maybe a couple of other brands, the merchandise, the sports merchandise it's the fan gear business in India was suffering from there are two major gaps in terms of again value creation for the consumer. The first was they were not enough. The ranges were very limited, right? Was very focused on replicas, saying that okay, I'm not original replicas. Here's the jersey, right? Buy the jersey. So that was very limited. And second, distribution channels were also very limited. The biggest property in India, sports property, without doubt, the IPL, which is essentially a 6 to 8 week event. So you need to be able to deliver distribution. You need to be able to do marketing, create ranges around that period very quickly. So that we felt those two pieces that there was not enough being done. So that's where we kind of stepped in, and we've built, we've done partnerships with the last IPL with 6 IPL teams, built ranges for them. We've also partnered with other licensing companies, who are building replica jerseys and stuff, and put them on our platform. Again, we're focused on delivering user value. So it doesn't have to be a product. The only reason we've gone into actual product design and manufacturing was because those ranges didn't exist. So that's where we decided, or we realized that we have to go in and do that. So what that landed up doing is that we had this entire range of products, like in Delhi Capitals, for example, they had a 499 t-shirt, cotton, really good quality 499 tee, which was fashionable, had great colors on it, a great graphics on it. And then you also had at 2,499 was their jersey, which you could buy. You also had caps. You had mobile covers. You had this entire range. You had track pants. You had entire backpacks, a whole range of things. And the response that we saw was extremely promising. And we did it for a at a very small scale in the last IPL, and we want to scale it up going forward. Um, I think you keep coming back to the same thing, right? Fan merchandise is part. If you look at who's buying it and who's interested in it, it's a sports fan. So whether it is live content that we show, whether it's VOD, whether it's scores, whether it's statistics and analysis, whether it's sports merchandise, the consumer is the same, the sports fan. We're just adding more value to them, and that's the way we look at our business, right? And merchandise also, as we'll expand, will be about adding more value to our consumer.
Any other verticals you're planning to expand FanCode in?
Yeah, we will constantly look at exploring other verticals. Once again, focus completely on how do we add user value, right? So I think there are lots of spaces in which we will look at, and we will continue. Again, technology and being a technology platform, a technology company gives us the ability also to um, experiment and learn very quickly, because you are able to test things out at scale and make modifications in real time, rather than a traditional brick and mortar companies. So we do a lot of that. We experiment with a lot of things. We've done that with merchandise also, and we'll keep kind of testing on keep asking those questions to our consumers and how we can add more value and keep building that out.
Okay, my last question to you, Yannick, and it's a bit off track from fan code. It's a generic question. We
Right,
recently read about Mr. Jindal talking about the ISL model not being sustainable. And I
right,
know you've been with NBA and you built that from ground up from when they entered India. And I'm sure
right.
it was a Herculean task, uphill task to get that brand first in the country and then sort of promote it. And so, how difficult it is for sports, apart from cricket, of course, to build that sustainable business model in India, and what can people do better to ensure that there is a good revenue flow?
Yeah, I think the good news, right, for sports in general, and I've been fortunate enough to see this right up front, is that the shift in sports consumption over the last 1 decade, right, over the last 10 years, towards the importance that sports is given as a part of a child growing up, towards the seeping of sports as as a part of our culture, right? Not just as something you do in your pastime, right? Has been significant. So the great news is that the sports, obviously, these kids who are growing up with sport, they are going to be more and more consumers of sport as they grow up. And so that I actually think that the growth of sports in general, and obviously cricket has got such this massive base, right? So cricket's growth is going to be good, but because it's got such a massive base, the growth rates are going to be smaller than other sport. But other sport, the growth rates that we've seen are significant, and I think they'll continue growing significantly over the next 10 years as sports becomes more part of popular culture in India. I think when you talk about sustainable business models, no, I think it's really important for every business model. It's not just sports leagues, that you look at it from a longer term horizon. When you're building something from the ground up, and you talked about the NBA and what we've done here, or what they continue to do in India. The most important thing when you look at, I remember the first time I met the then commissioner, Stern, and the deputy commissioner was now the commissioner, Adam Silver in New York. Uh, the vision was very clear: is that we are not coming to India to make money in the short term. We believe that for us to make a difference in a country where basketball is not the number one or the number two sport at that point of time, we have to take a long term view on this. We have to invest. We have to build um, sustainable grassroots. We've got to integrate basketball as part of culture. So I think for that, for me, is is the should be the number one mantra, right? For every sport or sport league trying to build, is that the league itself is the apex. Right? That is something which is great. I mean, it's great entertainment. It brings more interest. It obviously builds professionalism into the sport. It creates a thriving business ecosystem. But for you to be successful in the long term, you have to build the entire ecosystem. You've got to build grassroots. You've got to build amateur competitions. You've got to build communities. You with all that. That's the if you think about the US and you look at the number of little leagues that happen in various sports, you look at the number of communities that build their lives around playing sport together. Talk about soccer moms and dads who actually come know each other because their kids play. That that is what creates these great brands or these great leagues. That's the kind of feeder system which builds that. And even today, if you look at the IPL would never have been as successful as it was if cricket was not so entrenched. The grassroots system of cricket was not so entrenched, and which give credit to the BCCI and state governments and the central government of building this and creating the number of stadiums, the number of academies, amateur, professional academies, the number of grassroots events that happen. So I think looking at it holistically is really important. And I think sustainable business models have to be thought about long term. You can't think about starting something that's across businesses from scratch and say, we're going to make returns in 12 months. It has to
And
be long.
do you think businesses like yours, which are actually because the entire country's focus is to, make India digital. So is there enough support from the government for a business like yours?
Yeah, I think there are many pieces of support, right? I think the government's obviously doing a great job in looking at, for example, data protection, right, which is really important, and building those blocks around it, creating systems around it. That's really important. I think ancillary industries. If you look at the rollout of 5G, which is obviously coming up, the infrastructure development around that, which is private and public. Obviously the government gives out spectrum which builds stuff around that. So I think that if you look at over the last few years, the entire uh, digital revolution that has happened in this country has been extremely positive for technology businesses, because end of the day we run on that infrastructure, right? I mean, so our services of being able to deliver consumer value is only if impactful if a consumer has access to digital platforms. So yeah, I think both the government as well as massive private players have done significant amount of work in leading India towards this digital revolution. I think there's already they continue to improve on it, and we're very excited that and very positive about the growth in the digital environment over the course of the next few years.
Okay. Thank you so much for sparing time today, Yannick. You gave some really great insights. And, and you're right, like with digital revolution and businesses like yours, I'm sure fan engagement is going to go to next level. Thank you for being with us today, Yannick.
Thank you for having me, Tanvi.